What up, perps? Kid Copious back in effect with the Christmas spirit. You know what we're doing here. Repping America, the center, common sense. I love you. Look, I'm going to make this simple. Christmas, sure, it has a religious element. But for me, Christmas is about Santa Claus. It's about families coming together. It's about putting charity into your heart. That's what it's about. In all of the writing I've ever read about Santa Claus, it says he delivers toys to all the good girls and boys. Like, it doesn't specify black, brown, gay, straight, Muslim, Jewish, Christian. It's all of them. And that's something that we should remember. I don't mind saying happy holidays, but I miss saying Merry Christmas. So Merry Christmas, perps. All right, we'll stay in the Christmas spirit here. On this day in history, St. Nicholas punches Arius for claiming Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. Look, I've covered this before, and I like covering it again. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It is a movie set at Christmas. Much like Rambo, Lethal Weapon. These are movies that, if you remove Christmas, it's still the same movie. My favorite, Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase, is my favorite one. Because it shows a lot about Christmas. Without Christmas, it wouldn't exist. Christmas Story, even that unfunny elf. Look, I don't find Elf funny. You could argue in the comments. If you like it, you like it. That's cool, whatever. I think you're wrong. I don't think it's the best Christmas movie. I think, in reality, I think Christmas Vacation is. It shows aspects of Christmas that are dear to my heart. Getting the tree, family, the gifts, the decorations, the different things that go into making a Christmas dinner, blah, 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 all that. And that's missing from Die Hard. But Die Hard's one of those things that people like to bring up. I don't know why it's Die Hard, not Lethal Weapon, not Rambo, not some of the other ones, Oh, jingle all the way. Don't get me started on that. I just saw a really good one. It was a Lifetime one called Gift Wrapped Christmas. I thought that was pretty good. It had a lot of Christmas elements in it. Christmas is a spirit. I get it. I understand the Catholics have their things, midnight mass, the Posada, the Day of Advent, things like that. I get it. Yeah, there is a religious element. And in that part, people who are not of that faith don't necessarily celebrate it. Like we know, the Jews celebrate Hanukkah. But Christmas, maybe Christmas with a lowercase c, is what we should start looking at. This is a time of the year where you can really reflect and make those changes and show people those appreciations. I read one today about a mom who, for 10 years, had an empty stocking at Christmas because she filled her husband's and all of her kids, but nobody filled hers. And, if you've got somebody special in your life, and I hope you do, think about it. A Christmas stocking is a great way to buy a bunch of little gifts. Like for my wife, I always get some skincare stuff, some makeup, maybe a few little funny little things along the way. I got her a thing that you put on your finger and it holds nail polish. Got her a little tiny waffle maker, some candy, some stuff like that. Something to show that you care, And, my heart overfills at this time of the year, and I've got my internet children out there, None of them watch this show. They don't even know about it. They're friends of my daughters, from all over the world, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, England, Philippines, places like that. And I make sure I send them a little something, because I'm very fortunate. I still know what a Christmas bonus looks like. But yeah, even the smallest gesture can bring so much happiness to a person, because when you show a person that you care, it makes them feel better. And one of the biggest problems we have worldwide, I think, is that a lot of people feel isolated and alone. So, if you could do something for this Christmas to make somebody feel better, please do it. Please. Little Christmas gift to Purple State over here. MSNBC reportedly offers Joe Reed and this other lady, and a lot of their anchors, pay cuts to keep their jobs. You know, I don't celebrate MSNBC and CNN's downfall because they don't like Trump or they don't like Republicans. You know, fair enough. You know, there's room for everyone. But the real reason can be seen in the fact that almost every cable news channel has suffered considerable viewership loss after the election, except for Fox News. And it's not just because Fox News, is favorable to Trump. It's because they don't do a lot of gaslighting. And that's what we're going to see today. There's so much gaslighting going on in the world right now. And what we're seeing in many countries is that the gaslighting is starting to wear off and people are starting to see the truth of these policies. And people like Joy Reid, she's one of those people who stokes that particular fire, that fire of division. That's one of the things we suffer a lot in this country, is we're supposed to be divided by the color of our skin or what we believe or who we vote for. We need to be united Americans. We can have our differences. That's fine. That's fine. Nobody wants everything to be vanilla. We need people to bring chocolate and rainbow sprinkles and caramel sauce and, taquitos. Don't know why that came to my mind. But you need everything to make like a really good party. And that's what Purple State Party is trying to offer, is a place where like those kind of things don't matter. The things that divide us don't matter, because what we're looking for is we're looking for common sense leadership. And, I feel like the biggest Christmas gift that your boy Kid got was that the world's waking up to this. I mean, as you can see up above there, Trudeau up in Canada is in trouble now because people are waking up to the fact that doing everything in the name of woke points doesn't really work. All right. So one of the troubling things I think that has been going on is the fact that under the Biden administration, they took their eyes off what was important and they focused solely on their agenda. This article kind of sums it up. Naturalized U.S. citizen accused of running overseas police station in New York pleads guilty to conspiring to act as a Chinese agent. We are allowing our enemies to enter our country, to enter our mainstream through social media, physically being here, blah, 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 blah. And the Biden administration is not doing anything about it. And in fact, they made it worse by essentially opening the borders. We can argue semantics all day long, but those borders were open. Gang members from other countries were using a fucking app to get into our country. And this guy set up a police station for the Chinese secret police in New York, where they tailed American citizens and dissidents. And we didn't do anything about it because, first of all, New York's probably underfunded. Our FBI was focused elsewhere. Our CIA is entangled in wars all across the country right now. And the Biden administration didn't care. We see the same thing in California, where in California the most important thing is to get rid of gas-powered anything. I don't think, if you were honest with yourself, you would say that so-called climate change and all that crap is the most important thing going on in your life right now. I mean, look at what you had to spend on Christmas this year. Yeah. So there's a lot of debate whether Biden will ever get a library, but pretty sure Trump's going to get a library. ABC agrees to pay $15 million to Trump in defamation lawsuit settlement. Yeah, words matter, folks. But their money, that $15 million is going to go into a fund that will eventually build the Donald Trump library. Look, I voted for the guy, and I still find that weird. Tesla stuns the energy world with announcement of latest game-changing project, good on Texas. See, a lot of people want to say that red states are all backwards. Red states don't want to do this. Red states don't want to do that. They want to kill the environment, blah, blah, blah. Texas is supplementing its energy production with massive Tesla batteries. Because if it's a good idea, and look, I solar and wind, well, wind I'm a little iffy on. Solar, I think solar's a pretty reliable thing. I don't think it costs as much to maintain. I don't think it's quite as resource heavy as windmills. But anyhow, if you can collect power from the sun and store it in batteries, and you can do it safely, which it appears they're doing, then I think that's a good idea. The problem is the speed at which the federal government, and especially like states like California, are trying to move out is way too fast. You know, another thing about keeping your eyes on what's important, groups running NYC homeless shelters took massive salaries as questions remain over taxpayer-funded contracts. This is pretty gross. One CEO of a shelter paid himself more than $1 million in 1 year. That provider core was almost entirely funded by the city, according to the reports. Park says the Department of Homeland Security no longer works with CORE. Well, yeah, because it's just a fraud. It's just a fraud. You know, there's lots of people out there trying to do good in this world. I know people who do animal rescue. They don't get federal money. They don't collect $1 million a year. You know, this guy, the CEO of provider Canva, received more than $700,000 across multiple years. The president and CEO of Acacia Network Housing made over $900,000 in 2021. Some of these nonprofits enhance the senior executives' pay by contracting to other companies that they own. For example, nonprofit shelter provider Sebco Development used city funds to pay for more than $11.6 million in security services from a security company owned by Sebco. Senior executives at Sebco then paid themselves nearly $400,000 in salaries from the security company. And you wonder why they're not really getting serious about getting the homeless off the streets? I applaud these people for providing shelter for people who are legitimately homeless. But the problem that we see, or I see, I guess, is that a lot of these people are living on the streets because they don't want to spend money on rent. They want to spend money on drugs or alcohol. Or they're too crazy to actually pay bills. Those are the people that are destroying our society. They are. They're making it uncomfortable everywhere you go. It's growing and growing and growing. And these people are getting rich off of it. And I'm sure they make political donations back to their masters. And that's the part that needs to end. If we're going to be serious about it, let's be serious about it. But when you're allowing, like Sebco, to funnel off, $11 million for security services for a company that they own, there are scams going on. Some of them are legitimate scams, some of them are not. The administration has a duty and responsibility to manage city funds with prudence to ensure city funds authorized for public services are in fact serving the public, not friends, family, or private interests. Is that really too much to ask for? I mean, is it? I don't think it's too much to ask for because it's literally what has to be done. We cannot have individuals becoming rich off of the homeless. That right there, just even saying that sentence shows you how cuckoo bananas the whole thing is. Gavin Newsom says with another $25 billion, he can double homelessness by 2030. And who do you think are some of these CEOs? Friends of Gavin? Friends of friends? Friends of family? Yes, that's who they are. They're not doing anything about it. Every now and then we see a little push. Remember when the Chinese leader, Winnie the Pooh, came to town and San Francisco got cleaned up? And then it went right back to it? We are incentivizing people to move to California, to live in our weather, do drugs, be crazy, rob, harass, rape, whatever you want to do. Just come on out here. We'll give you a tent, a cell phone, a nice big debit card packed with money. What's the plan? Sowing chaos? Making money for their friends? Making money for rich people so that they can donate money back to whatever PAC Gavin Newsom has running? This is a scam. The government is using this as a scam, and because they don't want to spend the money. We've said this before here. They don't want to spend the money to actually fix the problem. Because if they fix the problem, then how are they going to milk it for cash? White House, Biden health cover-up blown wide open in bombshell report. First of all, I don't think it was much of a cover-up. I don't think it's a bombshell report. Not at least for this dude, okay? We knew Biden was not the guy to be leading our country. I said it 4 years ago. I said, before you vote against Trump, think about who you're voting for. That's why I always say, vote with your head, not your heart or your hopes. Because it has been a disaster. An explosive investigation, the overuse of adjectives, has exposed an extensive, deliberate, and years-long cover-up that saw the administration gaslighting those who dared to claim Biden's abilities had deteriorated. Yeah. They hired a vocal coach and put the reason they hired the vocal coach was to cover up the fact that he was having problems speaking, which was something he had all his life. And I am not making fun of him for that, but I'm just saying they were gaslighting. They put other officials into roles usually occupied by the president, scrapped meetings on bad days, and kept them at arm's length from his own cabinet members. Egregious examples of the White House cover-up included one relayed by Democrat Congressman Adam Smith. This is a Democrat, okay? In 2021, when Smith was chair of the U.S. Armed Services Committee, he tried desperately to get in touch with Biden ahead of the bungled withdrawal from Afghanistan that August to share his serious concerns about the plan. His attempts were rebuffed. When 13 U.S. service members and 170 Afghans were killed, Smith criticized Biden publicly and was reprimanded by Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. See, right there. Hey, don't bring it up. What are you doing bringing it up? Why are you saying that we couldn't talk to Biden that day? Well, Biden was having a bad day. And people died because of it. His own party tried to raise the alarm on that. And they were rebuffed because he wasn't having a good day. And again, today, as of just a few days ago, Biden missing in action as Turkey inches closer to full-blown war against U.S. allied Kurds in Syria. And we've allowed Turkey to be a member of NATO. This is just the bizarre world we live in. But yeah, they want to go after the Syrian Kurds. Because again, one of the biggest problems I have with the Muslim Islamic community, and some of it does go back to the ancient colonial days, is that the way the borders sit right now does not actually reflect how the tribal allegiances over in the Middle East in that region are set up. Kurds and whatever, they don't get along. The Shiites, the Kurds, the whatevers, they don't get along. And the fact that they've been lumped together in countries has caused problems for decades now. But where is Biden on any of this? See, that's the problem. That's the problem. So the White House brokered a ceasefire between Turkey and the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. But it's largely been ignored by pro-Turkey forces and Erdogan, who's the leader of Turkey. This is a huge problem that is going to blow up and get bigger. We have wars on so many fronts right now. And again, when we're talking about Syria, we're not just talking about one little country, okay? We're talking about a country that was supported by Iran and Russia and has elements supported by the United States, elements supported by Turkey. This is how world wars get started. When one side drags another side into the battle, it only grows. And we've not seen the leadership out of Biden. We've not seen the leadership out of the Democrats. Civilization 7 to include Bidenomics tech tree upgrade, where inflation ruins everything and eggs go up to $12. Look, we know it's not entirely his fault, but what has he done? Attacking the energy sector only made it worse. And for me, that's the only thing he's done. I mean, I don't want price controls, but then again, I'm not paid to figure these things out. I'm not probably even smart enough to figure these things out. But one thing Biden was awake for was he granted California's waiver to ban gas car sales in 2035. Really? Isn't that cool? Gavin Newsom and the Democrats of California are going to tell me that I have to drive a fucking electric car. An electric car that if you get a little damage on it, the insurance will total it. If you get a little damage on it, it's super expensive to repair these things. And how are most people going to charge these things? This is an inconvenience being heaped onto the people of California for no reason. We're not running out of gas. The United States has at least 200 years of fuel left. At least 200 years of fuel left. We could be moving a lot slower. I'm not driving an electric vehicle. I'm just not. I don't trust them one damn bit. Okay? And as far as I'm concerned, the only reason we don't hear lots and lots of stories about the failures of electric vehicles is because the legacy media is continuing to gaslight us. Okay? I know man has polluted this planet, but to the degree that they're saying that the left says, no, I don't buy it. So, whatever. They're going to ban gas car sales by 2035. Right. Okay? Because first of all, Trump's going to overturn this. Second of all, Gavin Newsom is going to leave his post. And I think California is slowly starting to realize the folly of just falling in line with every wackadoodle environmentalist out there. We need to put our people first. We are putting quite the burden on people. And as we're going to see in a bit, their answer to the whole thing is e-bikes. Super dangerous. California leaders propose another measure to keep immigration officers away from schools. There's some key points in here. So this is State Superintendent Tony Thurmond and Senate Majority Leader, Democrat from Long Beach, Lena Gonzalez. In response to President-elect Donald Trump's threat of mass deportations, they've announced some legislation that strengthens provisions already enacted under California law and prohibiting police cooperation between U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement within a 1-mile radius of a school. Great. So instead of having officers who know the community approach the problem, now, you're going to leave it up to the government, right? And why? Well, Thurmond said it right here, and he says the quiet part out loud. The measure is crucial to protecting immigrant families and preserving revenue for California's schools. School funding in California is dependent on attendance. As Thurmond says, we think anyone would be hard-pressed to be against a bill like this. This is about preserving that revenue and keeping our schools from being robbed of needed resources to help California kids. The problem is that these very kids that you're so hell-bent on protecting are what are ruining schools. I'm sorry, but that's the case. When you take on board a bunch of different kids who do not speak English, you zap resources. When you then have to cut out programs and blah, 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 to keep these kids progressing up the ladder so eventually you can saddle them with a bunch of college debt, that's a problem. They don't care. People like Thurmond don't give a shit if there's 45 kids in a classroom as long as the money's good. That's gross. That's the only way I can put it, is that is gross. Their plan is gross. All right? I have compassion for people. I do. But at the same time, my compassion is reserved for the people who go about immigrating here the right way, not the Biden way. All right. NCAA Prez suggests onus on female athletes to use other facilities if uncomfortable sharing with trans players. Right. Okay. So yeah, like the whole problem is just the locker rooms, right? And you know what? We're not even going to go through this. You know, this is so dumb. Volleyball player fights for truth after being severely injured by trans opponent. If only my rights had been more important than a man's feelings, Peyton McNabb says. She was on her way to being a college athlete. That's great. It's really good for girls to be involved in sports like that. And she was going to be able to go to college on it until she got pounded in the face by a volleyball. This is what happened to this poor girl. She was diagnosed with traumatic brain injury, a brain bleed, partial paralysis, and the loss of peripheral vision on her right side. She also suffers ongoing memory loss, confusion, and severe headaches. Her rights were extinguished so some guy's rights could be exercised. Because again, they're looking for the woke points. Putting a boy on a girl's team gets you woke points. I don't know. I didn't write those fucking rules, okay? If I found that rule book, I'd burn it to the ground. Because it's ridiculous. And it doesn't take a fucking genius to realize that allowing men into women's sports, especially in sports such as volleyball and things like that, where speed, power, size make such a difference. The problem is that we think that's the only solution. We've been gaslit into believing that's the only solution. Why can't that person be the only girl on the boys' team? That would be fair, but it would damage the boys' program. And the people who make the rules are still going to be misogynistic, and they're still going to heap the shit on the women. And the guy, by the way, who said this Baker, right? He was a former Republican governor. It's just sick. It's just really sick. Sometimes you disagree with things on a philosophical level. And then other times, like what we're talking about here with the trans athletes, you disagree with it just purely on common sense. No, California's $20 minimum wage for fast food workers did not create jobs. After the $20 wage, you know what? Let's pause here for a second because this one's really bothering me. What I've seen at my own work is now that my fellow inspectors know that they're making the same amount of money as a McDonald's fry cook. Or even more, even more insane, out in Texas where your dollar goes further, you could be a bathroom attendant at a Buc-ee's, and you can get the full slate of benefits that me and my coworkers get, and the same amount of pay, and all you have to do is be a bathroom attendant? Just for reference, my job takes a couple months of training at the very least, and that's just to do a basic inspection. But anyhow, when they pass this thing, all of the left-wing newspapers and stuff, California just, it's just full of them. They started reporting, not only did they add workers, but they did so at a faster pace than the rest of the nation. And that was the claim by this research paper. But if you actually read the research paper, you'll find that the results celebrated in the press release and echoed by the media aren't in the paper. In fact, it barely addresses the effect of the minimum wage increase on fast food employment in California. It offers no numbers, no models. There's no evidence that fast food jobs increased after the law was implemented. The paper's findings were trumpeted as evidence that government-mandated wage increases have no adverse effect and that we should be raising the minimum wage higher and in more places. Only towards the end of the 25-page study is employment shown. There you find a graph that represents the closest thing to an argument in the paper. It shows full service and fast food restaurant employment in California, represented by the red line. We'll see it in a second. And in the U.S., represented by a blue line. Okay. Just looking at that, it does seem like the nation added more jobs. But the solid red line on the chart clearly shows California's employment increasing more slowly than the solid blue line, showing national fast food employment, which is the opposite of what the author claims. If they suggest anything, this data shows that the minimum wage reduced California fast food jobs. But that was not the result that the people paying for the study wanted. So the authors just said, hey, here's a paper. It shows that everything's great. So if you look at it and they kind of straighten it out here so that you can see it a little bit more, you see that the U.S. growth was much more rapid. You see they started off equal at the bottom there and quickly separated. But more to the point, like I was saying before, people who do much harder jobs, more intensive jobs. I mean, you know what? I'll just give you the example, okay? You go to McDonald's, they train you for a week or two to flip burgers. You drive to and from the McDonald's, you sit in the back and you cook burgers. My people, my inspectors, they're out there. They have to drive various different destinations. I've spent more than 4 hours driving before for some of these jobs, 4 or 5 hours even, inspecting fire alarms, burglar alarms, access control systems, camera systems. We have to deal with clients, various clients from various backgrounds, various levels of whatever, humanity to them, who will sometimes just tear into us over the smallest things. Is that really worth the same as somebody who sits in the back? I have to be licensed in California to do my job. I have to renew my license every year. How is that equal? But that's California for you. Because again, as we said at the beginning, mandated. Yeah, here we go, e-bikes. California e-bike voucher flooded with almost 100,000 applications in just 45 minutes. So anyhow, if you tried to go on after just a few hours, we are no longer accepting incentive applications. That's the message that the California Air Resource Board had on its e-bike incentive project website. As of Friday, after residents flooded the agency with applications, leaving some disappointed and frustrated by the process. Oh, it's so hard to get my free bike from the state. Here's a load of bullshit from this guy Mendez who runs CARB. Or is the spokesperson for CARB, excuse me. The first round of the launch points to an incredible demand for alternate forms of transportation and a willingness to use cleaner mobility options. You are a fucking dumbass and you're lying to us. Stop gaslighting, Mendez. People just want free shit, dude. And these are e-bikes. These are dangerous. I've almost been run over several times on sidewalks while doing my job. Something that would not affect a fry cook. Because the fry cook's in the back of the restaurant. I'm out there in the middle of all this shit. I'm out there having to deal with fucking the homeless and the damn e-bikes and a bunch of other shit. E-bikes can vary in price. On average, they're about $2,000. So the state of California will buy you an e-bike now? Consumers should avoid extremely low-priced electric bikes, which can be lower quality, according to Consumer Reports, and burst into flames. It is a huge problem in New York. People park their bikes, their scooters right by their front door. The battery ignites, boom, you got a fire right in front of the only place to get out. This is not the answer. This is just people taking advantage of the system. By using e-bikes, people can get around and meet everyday needs while improving air quality, says Stephen Cliff, the Air Resource Board's chief executive officer. Right. Yeah, it really improves air quality. These are people who are already walking everywhere. Or they're going to drive their car, but they're just going to have a free e-bike to toot around and play with. Prioritizing equity and access is key as we work to achieve our zero emissions goals. And this incentive program will support these efforts by helping e-bikes be part of the solution. Yeah, right. You're going to park them when you go to work and somebody's going to fucking steal them. Give me a break. This is the dumbest fucking thing ever. All right? And zero emissions? Give me a goddamn break. Electric vehicles spew out micro dust off of their tires, and they cut through tires so much quicker. There is never going to be a day where we have zero emissions. Oh, but we're talking about what's coming out of the tailpipe. Never mind the fact that the air we breathe, the air that we really pollute, is mostly caused by the particulates coming off car tires. And you are going to force upon people e-bikes, which are heavier, electric vehicles, which are heavier, and go through tires quicker, putting out more dust more quickly. Stop with this gaslighting, you jackasses. Fuck! All right, so before Drone Fever 2024 ends, touch on a few things here. I love this one from the legendary Bronco. What are you going to do about all these drones? The dude says to Biden. Pardon them. Yeah. FBI assures nation drones just U.S. government spying on its own citizens. Of course they are to some degree, but that's not what's causing it. I mean, come on. You know, are some of the drones that we see probably Chinese agents recording stuff they shouldn't? Of course. Nobody's checking them. Are they using drones to deliver drugs? Sure. Of course. Is it just people out there creating weird-looking drones? Yes. That is one of the big things. I mean, when you talk about seeing drones the size of cars and stuff, you know, if you know anything about electronics, mechanics, aviation, stuff like that, it's pretty easy, okay? My son-in-law knows a lot about that. And he said, oh, it's pretty easy, okay, to build your own drone. You just take the parts from a drone, put it on whatever you want, and you got a drone. I mean, you know, if you put enough engines on it, you can make a skibbity toilet drone, right? Eh, whatever. Who cares? Drone problem solved after they try flying over Texas. You know, the Legion of Blue sycophants, they hate red states. But, you know, red states do have a sort of a way of just dealing with things. Maybe it's not the best way all the time. Maybe it's a little bit over the top. But, yeah, if you're really worried about drones, I guess don't fly them over Texas because they'll shoot them down. But the true answer, brought to you by the Babylon Bee, drones turn out to be elaborate gender reveal party. In California, we have forest fires all the time when people use, like, thermite or whatever that's called to do gender reveals, and they burn down a whole fucking forest. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's what this is. Look, the drones are just drones, man. Most of them turned out to be airplanes and helicopters, people freaking out. They also, you know, back east, they changed the law allowing drones to be flown at night. They're going to be a prevalent part of society. But you notice how the White House doesn't really take any real stance on it. They just go, oh, no, it's nothing to worry about. Because they don't really give a shit. They don't really care if it's the Chinese stealing secrets. They're already in bed with China. So I teased it earlier, but Justin Trudeau, head of Canada, is on the brink of resigning as his government crumbles. He's considering his options as leaders after his finance minister, Chrystalia? I don't know. As finance minister Freeland revealed she will quit. She was clashing with Trudeau on issues including how to handle possible UF tariffs, dealing a huge blow to an already unpopular government. They dealt themselves all their huge blows. Trying to make this about Trump is it's just baiting. That's what it really is. Yeah, you know, the real reason is because the one hallmark of these extreme liberal governments is that they force people to do things. They force people into having to go along with the program. They force people into stupidity. They force people to go around and use things like, you know, pregnant people or people who menstruate. You know, if you want to talk about the trans issue, just talk about trans people. Don't try to make it trans men can get pregnant. Don't sit there and try to shove men can get pregnant down people's throats because you're just gaslighting. And then you try to ostracize those people from their families. And we've seen that here. Oh, don't have holidays with people if they voted for Trump. And people, once they catch on to this, they realize that this is just like a dictatorship. That all this peace, love, hippie shit isn't real. Democrats, the liberals, are in bed with the government now. They are no longer the resistance. They like to call themselves the resistance, but they're not. They are the enslavers. Health experts bust red meat health risk myth and reveal real risk of eating it. All right, I'm going to sum this up really quickly for you. All my life, I've been told that red meat is bad. And now they do a study on it and they find there's no link. You can read it up on the screen, okay? I'll leave it up on the screen as I ramble here. But they've debunked it. It doesn't lead to strokes and cancers and all of this stuff. What really does, the real risk of a high meat diet, those meat calories are displacing vegetable calories. That's something we're addressing in my family now. We're all a bunch of little fatty piggies. We eat way too much fast food. So at night, I want to just start having like a bowl of green beans or some carrots, some celery, some cucumbers. I like taking cucumbers, garbanzo beans, olives, and croutons and mixing them up in a bowl with a little Italian dressing. I don't use fat-free because fat-free just means they probably added more sugar. I don't use sugar-free because, again, the chemicals or the substitutes in there, we don't know what they're really actually going to do. The big reason I bring this up is not because I love red meat, because I do. You know, I have a sign up at my house that says there's no such thing as a chicken knife. And it's a steak knife, cutting a nice big piece of meat. I don't say it as that. I say that as somebody who really only wants the truth, especially when it comes to health. I want to know the truth about things. I don't want to use placebos. I do research on the supplements that I use. I don't want to be using fucking placebos. But this is, the reason this comes up for me is as a reminder that they often don't know what they're talking about out there. And I think the more people wake up to that, the more we will get to the honest truth about things. Not just our diets. But I just keep that in mind. Yeah, Bronco ending it here. Legacy media credibility is tanking. Legacy media, the donkey. Trump says to him, why the long face? This is what I was just saying about the lying. You know, for example, the drone story. It blows up, it gets people clicks, and then they move on to the next thing. And that's what the media is all about. It's about getting eyes on the screen. And so every day they have to come up with new stories because nobody is tuning in to see the continuation of these stories. Or at least in a lot of times, there's not a lot of follow-up. Sure, the United Healthcare assassin, yeah, we're going to follow every step because the internet's all a buzz about how good-looking he is and fuck the insurance companies. Yeah, okay. Yeah, without insurance companies, nobody would be getting procedures. Only rich people. But whatever. Hate on the insurance companies. But people like Joe Reed and some of these other ones who spent all this time calling Trump Hitler, calling his supporters fascists, blah, 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 blah. They've been exposed. It's time for these media organizations to get back to what their fundamental role is, which is a watchdog. I don't want to just see new headlines every day. I want to see in-depth coverage of these stories. I want the truth. If the $20 minimum wage for fast food workers is having untold consequences, let's hear about it. Let's hear about what's really going on with the homeless. I would just like, for once, for the newspapers to admit that most of the people, if not all the people who are currently on the streets here in California, are either crazy or drug addicts or drunks. Okay? That's not to shame these people. The truth of the matter is I want to help them. There is nothing compassionate about leaving them on the streets. It's cheaper. And that's why the government does it. And here in California, then they turn around and they give out e-bike vouchers and clean syringes. And they spend all of this money fighting Trump. But they don't spend money to get us more water, to get us hospitals, to get us facilities for dealing with these homeless people. You incentivize homelessness. They came out here. The media gaslights us about, oh, it's not that big of a deal, or, oh, they're doing something, or the real reason why. The truth of the matter is, drug addicts just want to be drug addicts. That's the way addiction works. I know firsthand. I've said it plenty of times. I know how it works. Okay? The drugs or the alcohol, all they want is for you to do more drugs or alcohol. They don't give a shit about your family. They don't give a shit about your job. They don't give a shit about your health. Drugs, meth, alcohol, let's just say booze. Let's just stick with booze. Booze only cares about you drinking more booze. That's it. That's the way addiction works. But we don't fight the addiction. We incentivize people continuing their addiction while living on the streets. And if you overdose, here's some free Narcan. Then they turn around and say that these people who are now getting e-bike vouchers so that they can have transportation are somehow great for the environment. No, that's not the way it is. It's just gaslighting. At the end of the day, the gaslighting has been exposed, and that's why the legacy media is in such trouble. I'm not saying Fox News is perfect. Fox News is biased, but they're not gaslighting. All right? They have their viewpoint on things, and that's fine. It's fine if you have a viewpoint, but you also have to understand at some point you have to realize what is critically important and talk about that. And then maybe you can rebuild some of your credibility. Well, my time has expired. I love you all. If you can comment, like, subscribe, that would be great. I'm trying to build something here. I would love to have a bigger voice, and maybe we could all together start waking people up so that we could just see the common sense that's right in front of their face. And then we could get back on track as being the greatest nation in the world. Greatest nation ever. That's what I'd like to see, you know. Anyhow, I'm Santa Copious. I'm Purple State Party. And so are you. Love one another. Spread holiday cheer wherever you go. Wear a Santa hat. Make somebody smile. Man, I love y'all. I wish we could just get together and have a live dancing it out.